Okay, so let's come back to his cards of truth screen. In this, first let's start with the fulfillment strengths. Okay, so for him, the sun is starved. Sun is in the sign of Saturn, undergoes starvation. Moon is delighted because Moon is in the sign of Friend. Okay, it's a sun card, so it's really nice for the Moon. Mars is proud, which is amazing. Okay, and delighted. Mars is in Mula Trikona and is also delighted because of conjunction to Jupiter. But also keep in mind this Ketu. We will come back to this again later. Okay. Mercury is delighted. Mercury is in the sign of Jupiter, a neutral, but Venus is conjunct Mercury, so that is delighting Mercury. Jupiter, unfortunately, is ashamed because he's conjunct the Node, and also he undergoes a bit of delight because he is conjunct Mars as well as in the sign of Mars. Okay, so that influence of Ketu is there on Jupiter, as I mentioned in the astrology part. Venus is delighted. Venus is in the sign of a neutral, and Mercury is delighting Venus. Saturn is proud. Saturn is in exaltation. Okay, in the sign of Venus, and is also delighted because it's in the sign of a friend. So it's a great spread in many ways. The Avastas are looking quite strong to begin with. We will see in a bit some of the challenging Avastas I've already explained to you in an early part of the video, but we will see those ones which are important, okay, later on. So let's look at it from the cards of truth. Can you pick it up and see that this person is actually a hermit and a saint? Okay, what are the qualities that make him a saint and a writer or a motivational speaker? Okay, and a person who is establishing ashrams and being a philosopher and all of that. Where do you see such things? So for that we need to pay attention to the cards now. Okay, first thing is it's a nine of spade. Already you have the answer there itself. He's a hermit and he's a saint to begin with. The birth card is there. But can all nine of spades do it? No. The backing has to come from astrology. Okay, which I explained early on. That's why I start with astrology always, then move to the cards. Okay. So look at the nine of spade now. The nine of spade is falling in the sun card, and the sun is in the jack of spade. Okay, and the ruler of the sun is exalted, which is Saturn. He's in the two of diamond. So keep this path of energy in your mind. And now let's go back here. The moon card was their best card for a nine of spade, which is having 8 points, which is amazing. The second best cards were Saturn and Rahu cards, and even to some extent their ecliptic was pretty good, whereas the other cards are below average. Okay, particularly the Jupiter and Ketu card was their most challenging ones. Okay, so come back to the moon. The moon was the best card, right? So the King of Hearts was their best card. For Paramahamsa Yogananda, this is amazing now because the King of Hearts, the moon position, is connected to the Two of Hearts, okay, another Hearts card, and that's where he gets his ascendant. Okay, so the Nine of Spades is connected to the King as well as the moon now, okay, because it's interacting in the Sun card. Then let's look at the Sun. The Sun takes that energy to the Jack of Spades, and remember, the Jacks energize the twos, okay, and yet this is a spade and a heart, one of the very good compatibilities. It's not of the same suit, but it's still compatible. Okay, it's not like a jack of hearts, which is the best compatibility here for energy, but it's a spade and a heart, so that works very well. Okay, and is it a good energy? Yes, because the ruler of the jack of spade is exalted. That's amazing. And look at the other synergy here. The Sun card and Venus card are two twos, two of hearts and two of diamond. Amazing. Okay. So what makes him a hermit? The hermit nature is coming because of the nine of spade and jack of spade, the two spades here. Okay. And particularly the nine of spade has a good interaction with the jack of spade. Keep in mind the jack of spade is having the maximum energy in the ace of spade. So those people will normally have the capacity to undergo birth and rebirth, okay, which is internally the process of burning up your karmas and internally doing the transformational process. Okay, that's the nature of Scorpio in general, the birth and rebirth. That's why the Ace of Spades is called the card of the occult, just like Scorpio is the sign of the occult. Okay, so if you pay attention to this Jack and the nines, both of them do it like working together. Okay, and that planet that rules the Jack is exalted. Okay, and now this 9 is also working with the 2s. Okay, and that's where his ascendant is falling, right? So the ruler, the sun, does very well in the Jack here. Okay, even though he's starved, the Lord is exalted. But keep in mind, something else is going on. You will all appreciate these planetary placements for all the examples I've shared so far, which is that of Farrah Fawcett, J. Edgar Hoover, and also Mel Gibson. Okay, all these examples that we have seen, including Paramahamsa Yogananda, there is another technique which I will present at the very last end of this course, and it will also be an exercise for you. So there, these things become even more clear and evident. But until then, you have to wait and you have to be a bit patient. Okay, the Jack of Spade is working very nicely because the ruler is exalted. And keep in mind, for them, the Saturn card was also one of their good cards. It has 6 points, which is very good value. So the Moon card is connected to the Saturn card, which means their best 2 cards are working together. Okay. Sun is an average card, so Sun card is not like a great card for him, but still the Saturn and Moon working very nicely. Okay. Next, let's look at Rahu, which was also one of their good cards. Rahu is an 8 of club and it's in the sign of Venus. Okay, so it's in the Venus card here. And Rahu is working in conjunction to the ecliptic, which is the 4 of spade, and also an exalted Saturn. Okay, so see the energy that goes on here. 2 squares is 4. Okay, so the Sun card, Venus card, Jupiter card, ecliptic card is really cooperating. Okay, this is another thing which we have to keep in mind, the squares and the square roots. Okay, so that is a very good interaction here. And it's a spade, and their birth card is a spade. It's the same suit. Jack of spade on the Saturn card works with the 9 of spade, and that in turn works with the 4 of spade. Okay, that's really nice synergy now. Then next look at Rahu. Rahu is an 8 of clubs. It's an 8 and the birth card is a 9. 8 and 9 are successive numbers. Although it's not the best compatibility, this Rahu card is the best card. Okay, so it cooperates with the Ketu energy on the 9, which is their birth card itself. Alright, it's very important here. Then is this good enough? Because just looking at this will not give you the answer. The answer comes when you pay attention to the quality of Rahu here. Rahu is in conjunction to an exalted Saturn. So he picks up all the good values of Saturn. Okay, and Rahu picks up that Jack of spade energy. Okay, it's a very important attribute of planetary conjunctions, especially that of the nodes. Okay, so you have to really pay attention to that. Okay, all that is just the spades and the clubs that we saw, how the energy is moving. But we need to pay attention to some of the best cards here, which is the kings. And the king of hearts, of course, I've explained in an early video that made him the champion of hearts, liking through the public and getting the recognition in the public eye. Okay, but that is still not enough because we have to pay attention to this best planets here, which is Jupiter Mars conjunction with Ketu and Uranus in the king of diamond. Okay, so here it becomes so clear, right? Both of them are kings and kings energize the 9. Okay, that birth card, and it's one of the best compatibilities. Spades are working very nicely with the diamonds. Spades are also working nicely with the hearts. Superb compatibility actually. And Jupiter is manifesting this card, the king of diamond. Mars is also manifesting this card as the lord of this card. Okay, so amazing compatibility as well as manifesting potential of the king of diamond. And keep in mind, the best of the spiritual people you'll find will have the diamonds, as I mentioned, and the spades. Okay, the strongest energy of the kings is in the nines, and this is a nine of diamond is the strongest energy of the king. Okay, you don't see a nine of diamond here, but for all practical purposes, you can treat like it's a nine of diamond on Mars. That's a very strong nine energy. Okay, it's the hermit energy of the king working with the nine of spade here. Okay, then look at the other nice thing going on for him, which is Uranus, which is a 10 of hearts, also falls in the Mars card. Okay, and Uranus was actually a pretty decent card for them with 5 points. Okay, so it's good value for Uranus. And Jupiter for them was one of the very difficult cards which we saw. They get only 3 points there, but it's compensated. How? Mars is helping Jupiter as a friend very strongly. Okay, and later you'll see the importance of Avastas also, and Jupiter will come out strong because of the Avastas. Okay, so the King of Diamond and the Nine of Spade pulls it off at the end of the day. Okay, that's the most important things going on in this spread. Why? Because the King of Diamond is the specialist in whatever they do in a field, and here it is. His specialization comes to be Kriya Yoga, and he was a king in that, and he was skilled in that. Okay, and he had a very unique skill. On top of that, he established ashrams and spread that knowledge all across the world. That is coming through this Jupiter Mars conjunction in the fourth house. Okay, that is the house of real estate, the fourth house. Particularly, you need to have Mars connected to that. Okay, so in terms of real estate and property, he was quite lucky, and that place was actually a social place where people could meet and learn and have apprenticeship in Kriya Yoga. Okay, that is the Ten of Hearts energy. Uranus coming into the King of Diamond. Okay, where it's a place of social gathering and people are meeting and greeting each other to become the Ten of Hearts, which is the most perfect 10 there is, right? If you look at it, it's the able-bodied 10, which has the encompassment of all the other numbers, aces to nines. So at the 10 of hearts, you have become really stable person when it comes to your emotions. It's the culmination of your emotions. Okay, that's what yoga is all about at the end of the day. Okay, so that King of Diamond and 10 of Hearts, and again he had good networking. He was always in touch with his gurus and students and everyone. So that's the King of Diamond and 10 of Hearts flowing here. Okay, so that you see, and once again Jupiter rules Venus and Mercury, so he pulls off the Four of Clubs. Four of Clubs is one of the cards of writing and having stability when it comes to arts and ideas. So it does go through the process of writing the book and teaching and all of that. Mercury is manifesting that card, and he makes some good money and gets success from that. That's the Two of Diamond, which is the Venus card flowing into the Jupiter card here. Okay, so it was big deal for him because it was part of his life. The force on Jupiter is connected to the four on the ecliptic. So his guru and the books and the motivational speaking and his philosophy, okay, and his teachings are very important for him because the force on Jupiter is strongly interacting with his life path card, which is a Four of Spade. Okay, by doing the Four of Clubs, he could find the stability in the world, which is the Four of Spade. Although Jupiter card is weak, we see here their ecliptic card is pretty decent, which is 6 points. Okay, it's not so bad. That works and that cooperates. Mercury also brings quite a bit of luck for them. Here, in his case, he gets 10 of Diamond Mercury connection to Neptune. Okay, so that's very nice. Pluto also connects the 8 of Spade to Neptune. And then Pluto is also connecting Mercury to the 8 of Spade. Okay, because Pluto is in the Mercury card. So that 6 of Hearts, again, fulfillment when it comes to emotions and creativity, which is mercurial things. And it could have given him quite a bit of traveling, once again moving away to the foreign country. 8 of Spades is seen by falling in the sign of Mercury. Okay, we saw that importance of Mercury when it comes to his speech and teachings and all of that. Okay, then another important thing you need to pay attention here is the interactions that we spoke about. Okay, so there are quite many going on. Okay, for instance, Neptune and Uranus, the tens, and that is working in synergy with the kings here. Okay, but particularly Uranus is here, whereas Neptune goes into the Mercury card. Okay, and once again, these are all connected through Jupiter because these planets here are Jupiter is conjuncting Uranus, and then Venus and Mercury are ruled by Jupiter, and Mercury is ruling Pluto and Neptune. So planets are pulling this off very strongly for him. Okay, so when it comes to his initial education, I think I mentioned he never liked going to schools and all of that. That is also explainable when you look at the Four of Clubs on Jupiter. That is again a difficult card of Jupiter. You do see that manifesting. It's not like it's missing here. It does give its results. Okay. For the Ketu card, another interesting bit you can see is that he, being a saint, normally the philosophy in India is that they don't like to be associated with financial responsibilities. They don't like to be associated with worldly, materialistic things. But he was kind of put on that path that he had to take on those responsibilities, establish the education, and also spread Kriya Yoga and all of those things. And it was mostly because his guru who put his who made it a mission for him to do it. Okay, and that you see here, which is again very clear. Ketu is in the King of Diamond, and Ketu's card is actually a Six of Diamond on the King of Diamond. Okay, that energy is there. So fulfillment when it comes to material needs and responsibilities is trying to be met through the King of Diamond. Whereas his Ketu card is actually weak, which is the Six of Diamond. So what happens when you spend more time on the material realm and you don't get to spend time on your spiritual life? Your Ketu will suffer, right? So I'm under the impression that he never got to actually spend so much of time like the hermit, the nine of spade, and also only focusing on his spiritual path because too much of material responsibilities and too many other burdens, management things, business related things, purchasing land and property, setting up ashrams, all these things could have been occupying more time than needed. Okay, working with his teammates, working with his peers to get things organized, traveling, all these things could have taken away his time and energy towards the mundane things of life than the spiritual path. Okay, which could have been quite challenging and not acceptable in some ways for him. Okay, that's what you can see from the weak Ketu card. And again, weak Ketu card for a spiritual person means that they don't get to be spending time with themselves more. That's all it is. Okay, because of the materialistic needs here, and he was responsible for other people in his life, and he was answerable to his students, and he had to set up ashrams and teach and all of that, which means he had to get quite a lot of funding organized for that. So when he's spending more time on the King of Diamond and the Six of Diamond, okay, collecting charity and collecting the funds, then you barely have time for spirituality, right? That you can see through this weak Ketu card. Okay, so that's how I would read that. Okay, so this amazing Rahu card, the Eight of Clubs, we need to also discuss this. And this is a fixed card, and it is connected to this exalted Saturn, which gives him the opportunity for moving away abroad. Rahu again is the planet that took him away to foreign lands. That's where he became famous. Okay, the Two of Diamond opportunity, Two of Diamond relocation, and that's where he also was known. Okay, because of his books. The clubs have quite a lot of capacity for writing, and Eight of Clubs as a fixed card gives you enormous potential for writing. Okay, so that is the most important thing about this Eight of Clubs. And the ruler Venus is also in the Four of Clubs. So both Eight of Clubs and Four of Clubs is connecting him to knowledge and writing. Okay, and creativity. That's important here. For speech and related things, any clubs are okay. Particularly the best ones you'll see for media and communication is the Three of Clubs and Five of Clubs. We saw that in the case of Farrah Fawcett and also Mel Gibson. Okay, but the eights are no less than that. Okay, same way for the fours. All those are particularly important cards. Okay, it depends on what kind of speech and communication it is. If it's more on the center of sharing your knowledge, which is the most important thing. Then it's an eight of clubs. Okay, eight of clubs is the card of enlightenment. It's the card of sudden awakening that you go through. Okay, and the king of spade is another card which can do that. All right, anything with the kings, especially the nine of clubs or eight of clubs, and king of spade, nine of spade, eight of spade, all these are very powerful cards for going through the process of awakening and enlightenment. So if you suddenly come to terms with a huge treasure chest of knowledge, that is like an eight of clubs event, and that is on his Rahu. So do not discount this Rahu card in any way. Not only it was a card of writing for him, it was a card of foreign travels and foreign relocation. It was a card of networking and setting up this, workshops and all of that with students. Okay, it was a card of writing. It was a card of sharing his enlightenment, which is his autobiography that he shared, was the first autobiography written by a yogi. Okay, so all those things come from this amazing Rahu card. Okay, and we see that in his case that the Rahu card is 6 points, which is above the median, and it's in the 75% range, which is a great Rahu card at the end of the day. Okay, so keep in mind that his Mars card was actually 5 points, just in the median value. Okay, for the nine of spade as a birth card, but his Mars is tremendous in his chart. You'll see that later in the avastas. That Mars will pump this card up too good. Okay, indirectly will pump up even Ketu. We will come back to Ketu, and you'll see that even Ketu was so difficult for them as a card is going to be amazingly compensated when it comes to the planet. In a bit, you are going to cover that. Okay, so the Jack of Spade, Nine of Spade energy is amazing. The Four of Spade is all about stability. Eight of Spade gives him the travel. Eight of Spade also is an extremely important card for spiritual people because it's the card of being trapped in a place. It's the card of being sitting in a cave and meditating. It's the card of being alone and going through that process of psychological healing or psychological liberation for yourself. Extremely important card. So since this Rahu card is strong, okay, so these eights are strong now, which is really nice. And Rahu as a planet is also extremely strong. Okay. Then the Jacks, another interesting thing is they're all about themselves in this life. Okay. They have to express their individual self, and which is what he did through his books, his teachings, and going out there and taking the risk. In those days, to leave India to come to a foreign land and be by yourself is not easy. Only the Jacks can do that, or threes can do that. Okay, and it's nines can also do that. They are quite big risk takers, but the Jack is such an adventurous card in this case. The Jack of Spade and Jack of Clubs. Okay, that's quite amazing for them. His chart is really very powerful in many ways. And keep in mind this amazing interactions between Bhavat Bhavam and the suit completions. I will let you figure these things out, okay? And you let me know another interesting things about this case, okay? So next we will go back to our nice analysis about planets, all right? So here I am going to first go through the avastas. Let's start with Drishti Yuti. In the case of Drishti Yuti, he gets minus 24 points on the sun, and I've already explained this in an early video, so please listen to that. I will not repeat it. Okay, so that was part of his life path. He didn't like doing those things that he wanted to, but he was put on those track of things which were destined. That's what the sun here explains. Okay, moon is really nice. Moon is his Atmakaraka, 88.8 points. So it's amazing, really. The moon is important for a writer also, and he had a great moon. Okay, Mars is super planet, 156.3 points. So far, you have not seen a much stronger Mars in the 5 examples I've shared than this. Okay, it's an amazing Mars card, or a Mars as a planet here. Then Mercury is at 28.8 points, still positive, and just enough. Okay, not anything great. It's quite positive, delighted by Venus here. Okay. Jupiter is at 75.4 points. Amazing Jupiter. Even though it undergoes a starvation from Venus and Mercury, the power of Mars and Moon and Sun boost just Jupiter to 75.4. Of course, his philosophies were quite strong. Nothing could shake him up and, put him on a path where he was derailed. You know that already. Venus is at 83.5. Very nice Venus. Okay, only starred by the Moon to 34.2 points. Sometimes in the ashram life, he could have undergone some problems here because of emotionally, getting entangled with the other people in the ashram, but not anything problematic, which is quite easy to fix and handle with this nice Venus in a diplomatic way. Okay. Saturn is amazing, 40.4 points. Okay, even though it undergoes severe starvation from Mars, starvation from Sun and Moon, still a great Saturn. Okay, because it's exalted, that's able to handle things. Venus also delights Saturn. Really nice. Okay. Then from the chart, we can see that Ketu will give the results of Mars because he is in the sign of Scorpio. Rahu will give the results of Venus. Neptune and Pluto will give the results of Mercury. Uranus will give the results of Mars. Okay, now Uranus is boosting or getting boosted by Mars also here. Okay, and that's really nice. Okay, we need to cover the 10th cusp. The 10th cusp is in the sign of Taurus, and so it gives the same energy as Venus. And the Lagna is in the sign of Leo, so we take the values of the Sun, okay, for calculation purposes. Now, one thing you notice that in this case, Uranus is also conjunct Jupiter here, because in the signs of Mars, he gets a Jupiter, Mars, Uranus, Ketu conjunction. However, for the calculation purposes, I kept it simple and I only took the placement of Uranus, if he's conjunct in that sign, okay. So in this case, I've only taken the values of Mars in my tabulations. But if you like, you can do the average of Jupiter and Mars if you want to see something interesting. Okay. So in the case of Shatbala, he gets very nice values in general for quite many planets except the Sun and Saturn here. Okay. Sun is at 43.9, bit low. Moon is at 1001.1 points. Great value for the Moon. Mars is his best planet with 1106 points. Amazing Mars. Okay. Mercury is at 622 points. Still a good Mercury. No problems here in terms of Shatbala. Quite skilled in whatever he wanted to do. Okay. So Jupiter is at 935 points. Really nice Jupiter. Okay. Then Venus is at 1065 points. Amazing. Okay. So in terms of fulfillment and also in terms of the skill set that Venus offers, especially when it comes to being a teacher, you need Venus also connected to the 9th house. Okay, Venus is the teacher at the end of the day. Moon is the best teacher. Along with that, you get Venus. For him, you'll see in this chart that Venus is conjunct the 5th cusp, and also the ruler of Venus is in the 9th house of teaching. Venus, when it's conjunct the 5th cusp, is going to show creative things, which is writing and also speech related things. But at the same time, Venus, when it's in the 5th house, will give you clients, will give you students. Okay, it's very important. Moon aspects Jupiter and Mars, and that's his Atma Karaka. And Moon is also the planet of teaching. So that aspect on the 9th house, aspect on Jupiter, and indirect aspect on Venus pulls off the teaching for him. Okay. So Venus is also great, 1065 points. Amazing. Saturn is 340 points. It's a good Saturn, but not enough when compared to other planets. Okay. So we will see this in a bit. We need to divide these values by 60 and add this to the cards. Okay. Next, let's look at Vimshopak and the Shodasha Varga. He gets 13.2 points for the Sun. So in terms of fulfillment, the Sun actually is coming out strong. Okay, even though in terms of Shatbala and Drishtiyuti was actually weak. In terms of dignities in the Vargas, the Sun is actually doing very good. Okay, so in the end, he could manage to have fulfillment from life, even though what he wanted to do and what he ended up doing were quite different things. Okay, so because of the blessings of his guru and following his advice, he still managed to find his full purpose through that, the work he conducted in the world. Okay. Then we have Moon at 10 points, which is pretty good. Mars at 10.9. Okay, again, it's above that 10 value. Mercury is at 9.8, still close to 10. Okay, Jupiter is at 14.4 points. His best planet is Jupiter and Saturn. Okay, in the Shodasha Varga, equally good. Following that is the Sun. Venus is at 8.7 points. Venus is his weakest planet, just less than 10. You'll notice that somehow, in terms of fulfillment, it's missing or it is lacking in some sense. Okay, so that is the conclusion from the Vimshopak. Then let's look at quickly the Ashtak Varga and Bhava Bala here. So in Ashtaka Varga, his 10th Rashi is in the sign of Taurus, he gets 32 points. His 11th Rashi is in the sign of Gemini and he gets 28 points. And his 12th Rashi is in the sign of Cancer, he gets 22 points. And then his ascendant is at 32 points. Okay. So he misses out on these Ashtak Varga Yoga, unfortunately. Okay. The reason is the 11th Rashi, which is the sign of Gemini, is at a lower point when compared to the 10th. And that is one of the things that cancels this yoga. Otherwise, you'll see that the 11th Rashi is at a greater points when compared to the 12th Rashi, which is Cancer. And also, the Lagna is at a much stronger point when compared to the 12th Rashi. So, two conditions are satisfied, whereas the actions he took in the world leading to of a less reward when it compares to the 11th Rashi. And what does it mean? That means he did a selfless service. Okay. And that is what we expect from a guru. Because at the end of the day, the more he acted, the rewards and returns he got was not so much. Okay. Because it was only 28 points on Gemini. And it's quite possible, right? Because as a spiritual person, he could have maybe given away quite many free workshops and free lectures and free seminars and free initiations and all those things. All right, from a guru, especially from an Indian mindset person, right, many people go to them expecting things for free. Okay, and that's the nature because they are by default ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet that is very good at charity. Okay, and they don't expect anything in return because they have abundance to give. That's why Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. Okay, which is the sign of having abundance in some sense. Because from his Mula Trikona position of Sagittarius is exalted in the 8th position. Okay, and that 8th house is the house of giving away things, and that's the house of sharing with the world. And when will you share the 8th house? You'll only share once you have abundance of it. Okay, so gurus do tend to give away those things. All right, and that was probably one of the reasons that he didn't get so much of returns in his work. Okay, so that you see, and still the Lagna is very powerful in Ashtak Varga system. It's 32 points, quite a powerful Lagna. Okay, for Leo here. And for the 10th Rashi, it's in the sign of Taurus, and that is also very powerful. 32 points above average Lagna as well as the 10th Rashi. A really nice placement. Okay. Next, let's look at the Bhava Bala. In the Bhava Bala, he gets the 12th house in the first rank. What did you expect? He was actually a saint. 12th house is what we want it to be in the first rank for them. Okay, it's really amazing. And that's the moon. At the end of the day, the Lord was the moon. Moon was amazing in Shatbala and also contributing to great success for him. He has good Digbala as well. It's all adding up to number one. So it gives again a confluence that being a saint, the 12th house of moksha, the 12th house of spirituality, okay, the 12th house of letting go from samsara, that was all his high priority and it was his best bhava. Okay. And the least rank he gets is actually his first house. Isn't that amazing? Because the 12th Lord is in the first house here, and that is letting go of the body, attachment to the body. Okay, that's the first house. Whereas we saw the opposite in the case of Farah Fawcett. She was a model and she had a lot of work to be done in the world. When people are on that path, which is the material path, they have high priority and a high attachment to their body, the gross body. Okay, spiritual people will have the least attachment to the gross body. Okay, Because the more attachment you have to the gross body, the more you'll suffer at the time of death. Okay. The reason is you are going to be so attached to it that letting go of the body becomes a huge problem for the soul, and then go through an enormous process of suffering before they let go of the body. And modern day and age, it happens through all these complex diseases, which is cancer and other things. And you remember in our case, we also saw the problems of mental health and emotional health things. And usually, people in the entertainment industry do tend to have insecurities, and that leads to bodily issues and body image related issues, unfortunately. And that impacts their spiritual health, and that in turn impacts their process of death. Okay, so it's not an easy thing, especially if those people have addictions and anxiety and all those other problems during the process of death. It becomes a big challenge for them. Okay, whereas for saints, it's not a big deal, because the moment they are into spiritual path, the first thing they say is that my body is already become one with the mud. It's the same color clothes that they wear, right? They wear the orange color clothes, which is a symbolism of mud, or the sand. Okay, and they shave their head because they're not meant to look beautiful, because they look very nice with the hair on. Then they have an attachment to their self. Okay, so all those things are kind of reprogrammed for them when they become into that spiritual path and all of that. Okay, so it's not a surprise that you'll see that the body has the 12th rank for him. Okay, and it's quite a significant number here. 300 to 600 is 300 points of difference. Okay, whereas for the 12th house, it's amazing. This is where his focus was, spirituality and other things. What about the 10th cusp? It's on the 10th rank. It's not so great, but other things are pulling it off for the 10th cusp in other different forms of astrology. You don't necessarily need to see the best capacity here. Okay, does that mean that he gets low value in terms of bhava bala on the ascendant? Does this make him less of a capable person? No, because the ascendant lord, the sun, is doing other important things in the chart, and Mars and Jupiter and other planets are supporting that sun. Okay, Mars is very close to the 10th house. He is having tremendous amount of digbala here. Okay, Mars is forming a Raj Yoga here. Right. So all those other things are pulling things together for Paramahamsa Yogananda. Rahu is on the 10th house, and that Sarpa Yoga is directing him to do whatever greater destiny demands. Okay, so people with the Rahu Ketu axis with the 4 and 10, if they have a chart like this, okay, whatever the placements that is here for him, it doesn't really matter, because the nodes are the ones you have to really pay attention to and what they are doing. Okay, here Ketu is in a fantastic support from Jupiter and Mars. On the other hand, Rahu is in a tremendous support from Saturn. You cannot really miss these two, the kind of interaction that's going on between Mars and Saturn. Okay, then there are other things also in his chart, especially the Ketu work. You have to understand the nodes. I've already given you some clues. If you pay attention to the nodes and the work he has done, it will all become clear to you. Okay, so that's his planets. That's the Ashtak Varga and Baba Bala as well. Next, let's look into the tables. Okay, so here I have the table filled out for Paramahamsa Yogananda. Okay, the planets are just as in Kala entered here for Drishtiyuti, Shatbala, and Shodasha Varga as Vimsha Pak. Then the final card values are calculated here in rows 39, 42, and 45. Okay, so just for fun, okay, so let's look at the rank among the planets in different systems before we add the values of the cards. Okay, for him, pay attention to this Ketu card. Okay, Ketu is his best planet along with Mars and Uranus. Okay, they share the same first rank. Why? Because Mars is the best planet in Shadbala, and in his case, Ketu was in the sign of Mars, so was Uranus. So Ketu becomes one of his best planets at the end of the day. Okay, so this clears all your doubts about that weak Ketu card. You see, his weak Ketu card is 1 point, but Ketu as a planet stands out. And what do you need for a saint? You need a perfect Ketu at the end of the day. For a 9 of spade, you need a strong Ketu. that is, being delivered by his planetary placement, not by the card. Okay, it's a very unique example. Then let's look at Shatbala. The same story repeats here. Okay, Ketu, Mars, and Uranus become number one once again. If you take the Vimshopak, however, Saturn becomes number one. Okay, Mars and Ketu share the fourth rank along with Uranus. Second best is Jupiter. Again, if fulfillment came to him through his spiritual work and religious work, just from planet's point of view. Okay, Saturn, of course, is the Vairagi, as I mentioned. He is the one that is, undergoing the process of letting go. Okay, so that is still a good card for him. Okay, the hard work that he put in this world led to some fulfillment. Okay, that's important to keep in mind with Saturn. Next, now let's do our usual process of adding the cards and these values. Okay, so in this case, you'll see that the first rank goes to Mars card if you take the Drishti Yuti into account. Amazing, right? And you see that is Uranus also gets the first rank. Okay, because Uranus picks the same value as Mars. Okay, they share the same value. And one was a 10 of hearts and the other was a king of diamond. So amazing, really. And this Mars, keep in mind, is the one also creating Raj Yoga for him. And this Mars is extremely important because it is where he had all those planets pulled together. Okay, so it's really nice in the end of the day for him, this Mars card. And Uranus was also in the Mars card, conjuncting that Jupiter. Okay, so quite a powerful combination. Then the third rank goes to Ketu. Okay, even in this system, Ketu is not far behind. Okay, if you add the values, even though Ketu starts out in a deficit in the cards, just because Mars is so strong, Ketu is just 4 points behind them. Okay, really amazing. If you go to the Shatbala, Moon is number one. Okay, in adding the values with the cards, and Moon takes number one. Second is Rahu, and that is shared even with the ecliptic, followed by Mars. Okay, so Moon and Mars are not so far away. If you see the math, okay, just don't forget looking at the math and the numbers. 24 and 23.4 are not so far away. Okay, same for ecliptic and Rahu cards. They are not very far away. Okay, it's the same value here. And if you pay attention to the fourth rank, which is Uranus and Mars, they are also not far away. So Moon, Mars, Rahu, ecliptic, Uranus, all these are really amazing cards for him. It's all sticking out very nicely. Okay, and particularly again, pay attention to the Moon. It's Atmakaraka. Okay, and the work that he did, it's on his Lagna, and the writing, the teaching, and the spiritual, emotional things also are very solid for him. Okay, Mars I've already explained. Ecliptic, pay attention to the ecliptic now because it's a 4 of spade. Okay, by being the 9 of spade, you could get the 4 of spade at the end of the day, which is the stability in the world. By being on the path of a hermit, by being a saint, you found stability within him. Alright, at the end of the day, peace is not outside, okay, and enlightenment or liberation is not outside, it's inside. Okay, so in is the only way out of this world. If you do not turn inward, you cannot attain liberation. So that's the meaning of that 4 of spade. Unless you are secure within yourself, how can you go on the path of spirituality? The 9 of spade is a fantastic example of that. Okay, most challenging cards in terms of Drishti Yuti and Shatbala. So in terms of Drishti Yuti, the least was his Sun card, 13th rank. Second was his Neptune card and Pluto card. Okay, so of course the Sun I've already explained, right? Initial video itself I've discussed quite a bit about it. And Neptune is a 10 of diamond. Okay, material resources. Okay, manifestation of that, and how we could collect resources and funds to manage his ashrams and juggling those things. Those wheel of fortune turning in his favor could have been quite challenging. Sometimes funds may not or did not come at the right time, and those things he might have suffered. in order to manage and organize and keep tabs and accounts and all of that. Okay, that's what you can see from the Neptune position. And Neptune is also weak in the Shatbala, it's in 11th rank. And in terms of Shatbala, the lowest was Sun again, and the second was Saturn. Okay, so Saturn, unfortunately, because of being starved so much, he gets into the low values. And the Saturn card was, a jack of spade. So internalizing things and spending time within himself, and also to pay attention to his survival and taking care of his health, all those things could have been a bit challenging for him. Okay, he did have some health issues in the early part of life, and later on also you can see that he passed away at a very young age. For saints, a 60 where he attained like Mahasamadhi is still not a young age. Normally people do pass away at even younger, like 32, 35 usually. But yeah, that Saturn you can definitely notice, especially in terms of health and the problems of disease. Okay, let's look at Vimshopak. In the Vimshopak, the first rank goes to Saturn. Okay, the fulfillment did come from Saturn, and also the hard work that he did in the world and trying to teach the world the process of yoga and overcoming pathology and illness through that yoga and its practices was the one that gave him the maximum fulfillment. Okay, second best was the Sun. Okay, so he did again what he could do from the advice of his guru, and that led to fulfillment, which is amazing. Okay, third was Moon, his work with people. Okay, and the Moon is actually the kind of relationships you have with the world. Okay, the nature and the nurture part also, and he had emotional fulfillment. Okay, and the writing and also the teaching, all of that helped him to find fulfillment. Okay, the least is Ketu, and again the spiritual part where I still feel he couldn't do what he wanted to do. That probably is seen through this lack of fulfillment on Ketu in terms of his spiritual process, where he wanted to spend time more with his guru and more with his, spiritual pursuits. Okay. Then the second least is Ten of Diamond. Of course, I've already explained this when it comes to the financial part of his life. And the 11th rank goes to Venus, and that again is a Two of Diamond. Once again, centered around relocations, financial things. Okay. Probably he did not like moving away from India to foreign country and trying to again set up resources and funds and all of that. Okay, so that's the Venus thing here. And Venus at the end of the day is also a very important planet for bhakti and devotion. Okay, when he got separated from India and also separated from his initial relationships with his peers and the ashram, his guru, and others, there he undergoes a bit of separation, right? And he does get two planets there, which is Saturn and Rahu in the card of Venus. Okay, that's Saturn and Rahu in the card of Venus. The moment he was relocated and he moved away, that created problems when it comes to his Venus, the fulfillment in his life in general. Okay, then he had to restabilize himself through the Four of Spades to find security, and that he did. Okay, and one of the ways he could also come to terms was this Four of Clubs through intellectual pursuits and finding stability there. And again, believing in the word of his guru that everything is for the better of the world and better of himself. Okay, that is the Four of Clubs. So in the end, this Eight of Spade of relocation, you see this card of moving. It's connected to the Chariot in the major arcana. This Eight of Spade falls in the Mercury card, and that Mercury is conjunct Venus. Okay, in the Jupiter card, and Venus is a Two of Diamond. So Two of Diamond is relocations. Eight of Spade is the car or the chariot that shows the relocation. Okay, the process of taking the voyage. All right, and that for the spiritual purpose, which is the Four of Clubs. Okay, which is to find security when it comes to its intellectual things. Okay, and through the advice of his guru, that is the Four of Clubs. And of course, one other thing you'll see is the King of Diamond. For him, two kings were influential in his life. One was Mahavatar Babaji and the other was Sri Yukteswar. That also you can notice through the two kings. One was on the moon, the other was on the Mars. Okay, quite powerful uh, two personalities that changed his life for good. Okay, and that definitely is connected to Jupiter, because it's Jupiter is ruling that and is in the king of diamond. Okay, so many things like that. If you let me speak, I can speak many hours now. I will not do that. So you can find this information and you can derive more from this. Okay, you can conclude on much from his spread and his charts, and looking at the other important charts. Okay, in this spread for the D24, the D20, the D60, and so on. Okay, so it's very important personality in the world, especially for people on the spiritual path. I encourage you to look into his chart. Okay, you get some important clues about understanding the path and life of spiritual people. Okay, so I think I conclude this video with that note.